How do you identify yourself? I'm not talking about being a child, a sibling, a partner, a parent, a grandparent. How do you identify yourself? I'm not talking about gender or orientation. I'm not talking about being employer or employee, what you do for a living, or a passion, or sport, or activity you may follow. How do you self-identify? Jesus, in John 17:16, Jesus said this: "They are not of the world, even as I am not of it." In the letter to the Philippians we read, "But we are citizens of heaven." When we choose in our life at some point to decide to follow Jesus, to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, to become a Christ follower, our citizenship changes. Now, I know there's many of you here today who are dual citizens of two countries. You're legally a citizen of Canada and another country. But for every believer, we have dual citizenship, regardless of the country we live in. In following Jesus, we become citizens of heaven. And as a citizen of heaven, it supersedes whatever country we might be a citizen of. That walk with Jesus is a defining characteristic of our identity. Today, as followers of Jesus, we're talking about our citizenship as Canadians. This is unlike any other Canada Day, maybe in our memory. Since November 4th, we have been on edge concerning what each news cycle may bring. Maybe we need to look way back before the formal creation of Canada, way back to 1812, for such a threat. A few weeks ago, some of you in coffee hour were discussing what are Canadian values? What makes a Canadian? They're a Leaf fan. They like poutine. They drink Tim Hortons coffee. What is it that defines a Canadian? What are Canadian values? So I worked on a list. Now I realize that not every Canadian, not every one of you may affirm everything on the list, but I feel that a significant majority of Canadians would offer support to these values, beliefs. We believe every Canadian is entitled to medical care. We believe that getting sick should not bankrupt you or hinder you from receiving basic medical treatment. We believe that if you get sick and you're living under the Bronte Bridge, or you live in one of the most expensive houses in Bronte, both are going to be treated medically for free when they get sick. We believe that most people, especially those of us living in an urban or suburban setting in Canada, and that's the vast majority of Canadians. In fact, most Canadians live between Windsor and Quebec City. Most of us in an area like this, we do not need to be armed, unless it's our job to carry a handgun. The thing is, Canadians, we believe in research, tested science. Generally, most of us think vaccines work. I don't have polio. I believe the world is round. People actually landed on the moon. That we're going through some type of climate change. And nanochips are not secretly being inserted inside of us. I think we believe this vast land of ours and the incredible God-given blessings that God has bestowed on us in this nation, from coast to coast, from the border to the Arctic Ocean, is to be used, not abused. We see ourselves as stewards or caretakers, or gardeners of God's creation, not as something to be destroyed. Our freshwater Great Lakes, which most of us live around or beside or close by, are priceless treasures, not like any that the rest of the world has the blessing of. And those waters need to be protected. I think Canadians believe our air needs less contaminants in it, not more. That our national and provincial and local parks, our fragile landscapes, our escarpment, our green belts, they need to be protected. That wetlands are a good thing. I think as Canadians, we believe in education, particularly higher education. We believe there should be free public education for all from JK to grade 12, and that colleges and university and trade schools are not restricted simply to the ultra-rich or the ultra-brilliant. I think we see education offers a wide breadth of experiences, that our libraries, whether with actual paper or virtual copies, should be well stocked. That education teaches history the way it was, not the way we wish it was, based on 2025 constantly changing values and political priorities. I think as Canadians, we believe in free elections. And I think we are blessed by a multi-party system. I like that I don't have to register to vote unless I move. We have permanent voting lists. And we have a totally independent civil service that runs voting. The voting is not controlled by whatever party is in power. Elections Canada or Elections Ontario or municipal governments provide safe, fair voting and counting. I know as a renter, that's the church, where we host all levels of government elections, the requirements we have to meet, the work that's done by those people that take those positions is a sacred trust. As Canadians, we are blessed with a fairly independent judiciary system. Maybe you've heard about the first year university class, and the professor gave them an assignment. They were supposed to write an essay on elephants. So there was a French student, and he wrote on elephants and love. There was an American student, he wrote on bigger and better elephants. There was a Canadian student, and he wrote on elephants, a federal or provincial responsibility. We joke about it because there's lots of debate, federal or provincial. And then in the local, municipal, and provincial, there's lots of issues. But to me, that's a check and balance. That each level of government balances the other. It's often interesting to me. In Ontario, we often have one political party in power in Ontario, which is the opposite of the one in Ottawa. Well, that's the short list. I'm sure you can have your own as I was going through it. There are so many things that we are blessed with. Paul, in his letter to Galatians today, reminds us. Paul says, "So let us not grow weary in doing what is right." Let us not grow weary in doing what is right. In government, we talk about civil servants. Our leaders are there to serve us, not the other way around. Our leaders, too, are only there for a time. They face the electors regularly. They are accountable. And we elect governments and we throw them out. We elect local politicians and we throw them out. This year we've had both a provincial and federal election. Next year we have municipal elections. And not only can we vote, but we can run. Sometimes you hear a story about municipal elections, and there's all these people running. I think that's a great thing. I think there is a great strength and blessing in choice. When I voted in the federal election, I was in and out in 10 minutes. What about you? You don't have to stand in line for hours. I could have a water bottle. My vote is not suppressed. There's no soldiers there keeping an eye on me. We're not being intimidated. We have easily accessible voting locations, all of which are pretty close to where we live. And we have all the advanced polls. Again, as a renter, what we do to make sure that people can come here and be accessible to vote. And our riding boundaries generally make sense. Here in Oakville, east and west, divided by the creek, makes sense to me. It's not some gerrymander to keep a party in power. Now this Sunday, the last Sunday of June, has for years been our Pride Sunday. That was set years ago. And don't think that Pride Sunday is being overshadowed by Canada Day. For without the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Pride would be very suppressed, like it's done in various countries around the world. The Charter is a constitutional document that protects the fundamental rights and freedoms of individuals in Canada. It guarantees rights like freedom of expression, religious assembly, as well as democratic, mobility, legal, and equity rights. It also ensures that the government cannot infringe upon these rights without justification. Yes, it's messy. Yes, there's things that have to be decided in courts. But I don't see a better system anywhere in the world. The freedom that we have. Canada sets a stage for the protection of all people, and that includes gender. As Paul writes in Galatians, for freedom Christ has set us free. But he gives us a warning. Paul says, do not use your freedom for self-indulgence, but through love become servants to one another. We have that responsibility, especially as followers of Jesus, to serve one another. Canada is a land of freedom. But freedom for what? Not just personal gain, but for community good. And I think at the basis, most Canadians still want good government. Most Canadians will live with the tax rate if we have good government. If we see our government dollars are being used in things that benefit all of us. This is especially true as we mark Pride this weekend. There's still work to be done. But people aren't jailed or persecuted because of who they love. A chance to say everyone belongs. We treasure all God's children. We celebrate the diversity God created. In Micah 6, the prophet Micah, we hear the ancient cry, what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God? That could be a national Canadian motto, couldn't it? Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. Because justice is not simply a theory. It's how it's played out in our healthcare system, in our education system, and when how we try to make space for everyone, especially those who may be marginalized. And we're told to walk humbly. I hope that's still a Canadian virtue. We love to apologize. After A, I think sorry is the word we might use the most. We try to compost and recycle and shovel our neighbor's driveway. So today we gather not only as people of faith, but people of citizens of heaven. We come not to reflect on flags and fireworks, though they're wonderful, but we come as believers to reflect on what it means to live out the gospel in the land that we live in. And though we are not perfect, individually, as a society, as a church, as a family of faith, this is our goal, our calling, our vision, to do our best, to not take things for granted, to not grow weary in well-doing. Bless this nation, O God. Happy Father's Day.